to be open, free of tolls, free of attack, free of all the things they're doing against these ships. So you can't have an MOU that's alive if they're violating the terms of it. What I will say is that the United States always remains open to a diplomatic solution. We've tried multiple times with Iran, and we'll continue to try. If that door opens, we'll be happy to see it open. But and they continue to send signals that they want to talk, that they want to negotiate. But their behavior is what we're responding to. And their behavior is they're launching missiles and drones against ships, including tonight.
So there you have Marco Rubio, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, talking about the diplomatic pursuit to try to calm things in Iran. But you can't do that if they don't want to play. President Trump repeatedly says it takes two to tango. Now we have more American lives lost in this conflict. And as I said at the beginning of the show, it's important to constantly question, are we moving in the right direction? Is this still a worthy cause? And I would say, yes, it absolutely is. But it, of course, does not come at no cost to the lives lost, as we have found more this weekend. Let's get to an expert on the subject. Victoria Coates joins us, the Vice President of Heritage Foundation's Catherine and Shelby Cullum Davis Institute for National Security and Foreign Policy, also the former Deputy National Security Advisor to President Donald Trump. Victoria, it's great to have you on the show with us. Thank you for your time this afternoon.
Thank you, Annie. Good to talk to you.
You as well. I want to give you the opportunity to speak first and foremost with the pursuit that this administration is trying to, of course, denuclearize Iran. And also, it seems as though a secondary and important point is to reopen and keep open the Strait of Hormuz. It has cost more American lives. Can you speak to that loss that we've experienced and what these individuals, what their lives lost are an investment in?
Yes, I mean, this is obviously a very terrible event, and everybody at Heritage is praying for the families of our fallen heroes. And I understand the president will be going down to Dover to witness the dignified transfer, which is one of the hardest duties a president could have, to welcome home those fallen heroes. So it's a somber day, but at the same time, we're learning more and more about the Iranians and what they're capable of. Important to note that the facility the Iranians fired on were the barracks where our soldiers sleep. So it's not exactly like they attacked a military formation. They attacked a dormitory. And that tells you what you need to know about them. And I think you're absolutely right. The denuclearization of Iran, as the president has very clearly laid it out, is what he would not tolerate. And we've been kind of playing this game for 47 years, and he finally said he was going to do something about it. And he really started at the end of the first term with the eradication of Qasem Soleimani, followed up with Midnight Hammer, and then Epic Fury, and the return to combat operations now. And, he has not gone into this, willy-nilly. He didn't do a sort of shock and awe kind of first strike. He's been trying to give the Iranians a diplomatic option, and they haven't taken it. And so he's gone back to what has had an effect on them before, which are these sustained, very targeted, very effective military strikes.
Victoria Coates speaking with us right now. I'd like to really widen the lens as much as we possibly can on what's taking place in the Middle East, with the focus clearly set on Iran and their past, their present, but also the future. I can't help but notice all of the lead up, the policy changes that this administration has made, specifically in this term, but also pulling from his first term, President Trump's first term in office, that he's really recalibrating the way the Middle East functions, whether they function out of the idea of strength and hope for a prosperous future, or maybe just out of fear because of the way that the Middle East has been managed for so long, with terrorism being such an important part of influence in the way these countries navigate their daily lives, but also our relationship with them. How much is President Trump's foreign policy affecting the way the world understands that region and the way they work within themselves?
Oh, it's completely transformative. And there are a whole bunch of things going on that our mainstream media friends will not talk about because they're actually good news stories. I met today, midday, with President Joseph Aoun of Lebanon, who's in town for a historic meeting with the president tomorrow in the Oval Office, because President Aoun, has engaged in the first direct talks between the United States, Israel, and Lebanon in a generation. And we may be getting close to a Lebanon deal. And Lebanon, for the first time in my memory, is less of a just total basket case. Aoun is a strong president. He's building the Lebanese armed forces as a just good institution for the Lebanese people, and he's taking strong action against Hezbollah as he can. So that's, one thing that has changed. And so Lebanon is no longer functioning as just an extension of Iran, which is essentially what it had been. Same thing in Syria. Bashar al-Assad was a close partner to Iran in Syria, spent his time attacking Israel, being very, very aggressive against his own people. He now has been replaced by President al-Shah, who is maybe not George Washington, but at the same time is helping Lebanon interdict arms shipments from Iran to Hezbollah. So that's positive. And finally, we had the visit of the Prime Minister of Iraq last week, who, for the first time that I can remember, came first to Washington rather than going to Iran. And what did he do while he was here? He signed deals with Exxon and Chevron, taking oil fields away from Lukoil, from the Russian company, and putting them in the hands of American industry. That is just very much clearly showing where his interests lie. And so as he begins to take action against Iranian elements in Iraq, this is really transformative. And suddenly we have not only our Gulf partners and allies, Israel, countries like Egypt and Jordan, but then Lebanon, Syria, and Iraq, which have obviously given us headaches for decades, suddenly becoming much, much more constructive and much more aligned with the United States.
So Victoria Coates speaking with us right now with Heritage Foundation, also former Deputy National Security Advisor to President Donald Trump. This entire strategy that has been led by President Trump's administration and really fortified, I think, by Secretary of State Marco Rubio has been incredible to watch. I'm a huge fan of his and have been for a long time. I think he's just so perfectly aligned with the mission right now. I'm wondering, does everything, all the reshaping of what's going on there, all the progress and success that has been had so far, even though we're not done with the mission, is this just one big fragile situation where America, Trump, Rubio, our military strength is holding it together right now, and the second that maybe their hands would come off, they're not going to be there forever, does the whole thing fall apart? Or is this transformative enough as it is right now that post Donald Trump's administration, his fingerprints will be on this, and there will be a new hope for success and less violence and less, war in the Middle East in the future?
Oh, I think what we're going to have to do, Annie, is follow the money, because that's what can give us our best predictors. And so those deals I was just talking about with Iraq going from Lukoil to Chevron and Exxon, that's real hard to unwind once you start those $1 billion in investments and long-term contracts. And there are other movements like that. We've seen Qatar, for example, in March, start exports out of Golden Pass, Texas. So Qatar is exporting natural gas out of Texas now, where they have 70% of that export facility. Exxon has 30%. And that's the reason you're not hearing howls of rage from Doha right now after Iran damaged their mutual gas field in the Persian Gulf, because all of that product is being made up by Texas. So if you're Japan and you're getting a shipment of Qatari natural gas, that natural gas comes from Texas. So, people can have their views on the Qataris, but that's Qatar saying we are investing where we think our future is, and that's the United States. And that's far from the only such investment. It's just a good illustrative one that the region really is putting its money where its mouth is, that is behind the United States and, by the way, behind Israel. And I think you're going to see some very interesting things with cooperation on natural gas with Israel, with its assets in the Eastern Mediterranean. And then, of course, everybody's desperate for Israeli high tech in the region. So they're sort of finding various ways they can warm up those relationships. Important to note, the Abraham Accords signed in 2020 are still are actually thriving at this point. And so that's a really good example to the rest of the region of the benefits that await them if they line up with the United States and Israel.
Victoria Coates speaking with us right now with the Heritage Foundation. I am, seeing the president say that they've decimated Iran, their military strategy, certainly their nuclear program, and he champions the success that is there. They're still firing upon people who are within, distance shot of the missiles that they have. They've been able to target some United States bases as well. And I think to myself, okay, maybe Iran can continue to do this for an amount of time, but they probably can't sustain this type of behavior forever. And the one thing that I truly do fear is that there is another party, a much bigger and stronger party, that decides that either they need to support Iran for, assets, maybe oil, or that they consider the United States to be big enough of an enemy that they decide to throw their strength and weight behind the side of Iran. And I don't know anything. I've been on vacation, but I did stop to watch President Trump's speech last Thursday night, his address to the nation. And for a president who has been very flattering towards President Xi of China, many times seems to say, I respect that he is China first. I am America first. And he expects President Xi to do what is best for China. The China interest in Iran's success or failure, I think, is of great import to the American mission here. Do you feel as though there's any sort of partnership or anything with any other nation, specifically China as well, that Iran might tap into to completely change the course of this conflict going forward?
I certainly think Iran would like to. And in 2021, one of the first things that happened after Biden came into office is Iran and China inked a long-term deal, which was supposed to be hundreds of billions of dollars worth of investment, a lot of strategic partnership talk, that kind of thing. A lot of that money hasn't materialized, but a lot of Iranian oil sales to China have. And so it's like Venezuela and like Russia has been a kind of beholden cheap gas station for China. But China doesn't like these kinds of entanglements with sort of failing propositions. So I think they're definitely being a nuisance. I think they are supplying the Iranians with much better intelligence and satellite imagery than they would otherwise be able to get their hands on. And that is a problem. I'm not happy about it in any way. But they've really been pretty muted in their response. And bear in mind, China does not yet have the ability to project power around the world the way the United States does. I mean, they're completely dependent on us for getting oil out of the Gulf. They're not sending ships. They're not trying, they're not doing anything, and they need that energy. They couldn't do what we did in Venezuela, for example. And so they can't do that much right now. And I'm sort of getting the feeling that they see the Iranian regime as like a bad debt. They're sort of writing it off. They'll get what they can out of it at the fire sale, but the country is failing. I mean, make no mistake about it. They've got over 30% unemployment, over 70% inflation. The real, which was worth 30,000, or there were 30,000 real to the dollar 10 years ago, it's now 2 million. It just can't go on. So, I think they maybe can scrabble, for a little while, but it's pretty limited. And I don't see China wanting to hold that bag. It doesn't smell pretty good.
Sure. Victoria Coates speaking with us. Last question before we let you go. We're grateful for your time this afternoon. Is there a clear understanding of what success looks like, the outcome that this administration is looking for? Because it does feel like what success looks like will have to be monitored and kept up by either the United States or those people who are maybe geographically more closely located to Iran, as just to keep an eye on them, a side eye constantly. Is there a clear understanding of what success would look like at the end of this?
Oh, I think so. And I think you're putting your finger on it, that for starters, we have, as much of an assurance as is humanly possible that the nuclear program has been disabled and they will not have a nuclear weapon. And we have the means to watch them and verify that. That's the bottom line. The Strait of Hormuz is open so that international energy markets aren't roiled. And then I think maybe most importantly, that's a little bit different from those 2 points, is that Iran cannot project power beyond its borders. And so this means no more Hamas, no more Hezbollah, that Houthis go their own way and they don't shell their neighbors. So you have to degrade all those capabilities. Now, nothing would make me happier than if all of that results in better leadership in Tehran. And I would like to see a kind of a Gorbachev-like process in the Soviet Union that doesn't result in a Putin, that maybe we were more supportive of, helping them rebuild those institutions. There's more of a historic memory of a free system in Iran. They have a good constitution, actually from 1912, that can be easily modernized. So I think that would not be a huge heavy lift, but would have to keep an eye on it. But that would be more of an orderly transition than a chaotic revolution. I think that would be better for the country. And then I think we could be in a much better place.
Okay. Well, it's good to know that there is that clear understanding, and we look forward to seeing the president continue to finish the job as well. Victoria Coates, it's an honor to have you on the show with us. Thank you for giving our listeners some of your time this afternoon.
Absolutely a pleasure. Thank you, Annie.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye. She is former Deputy National Security Advisor to President Donald Trump.